2007, the Africa Finance Corporation was founded with a bold
beyond despair. G20, take your place, stand with Africa, embrace her grace. To this G20 outreach session that the South African presidency of the G20 is co-hosting with our Nigerian partners in Abuja. I am going to ask the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security of Nigeria, His Excellency Abubakar Kyari, to address this meeting, and we will then proceed with the opening session of this meeting on agriculture and industrialization in Abuja. And thank you once again to everyone who has joined us today for the session. G20 members, invited countries of the South African presidency, and our focus on the African countries that are with us in the G20 presidency. So on that note, please may I ask you to join hands and welcome the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. Thank you. Let's see where this is. Yes, we can speak and see if that works.
Thank you very much. Distinguished invited guests, my colleague, the Honourable Minister of State for Industries, Senator John Owen Eno, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm privileged to have the opportunity to share Nigeria's experiences over the years, experiences, perspectives, and insights on advancing agricultural productivity and food systems through a stronger farm-to-factory connection, highlighting the country's efforts to leverage linkages to drive agricultural transformation, enhance food security, and promote economic growth. Agriculture contributes over 1/4 of Nigeria's gross domestic product and remains the single largest employer of labor. Its performance shapes the pace of national growth and the resilience of our economy. Under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the government has repositioned agriculture at the center of national development, translating commitment into action through pragmatic reforms, higher investments, and stronger institutional coordination. The path to national prosperity lies in adopting an agri-industrial approach that fosters a symbiotic relationship between agriculture and industry to create a virtuous cycle of growth and innovation. This requires transforming the agricultural sector from a subsistence-based system into a dynamic, business-driven, one capable of driving industrialization and sustaining economic growth. To achieve this, we must embrace new technologies and innovations that enhance productivity and efficiency, making agriculture more profitable and attractive. Our focus should extend beyond primary production to the development of the entire value chain, including processing, manufacturing, packaging, and marketing. We must also strengthen the linkages between agriculture and industry, ensuring that agriculture supplies raw materials and drives demand for manufactured goods, while industry provides the inputs and technology that accelerate agricultural growth. Before oil became the economic backbone, agriculture was the main source of foreign exchange, earnings, and government revenue. In the 1960s, agriculture contributed significantly to Nigeria's GDP, providing food security, generating savings for investment, and supplying raw materials for industries. Different regions specialize in specific export crops, including groundnuts and cotton in the north, cocoa in the west, and palm oil in the east. Historically, groundnut, cocoa, cotton, rubber, and hides and skins was central to Nigeria's economy, driving agro-processing industries and significant wealth generation before oil boom of the 1970s. In Nigeria's early decades, agriculture powered the economy and gave rise to vibrant industries that linked farms to factories. The groundnut pyramid stood tall as enduring symbols of productivity and enterprise, their towering stacks reflecting a nation built on the strength of its farmers and traders. Cotton sustained a busy textile industry, while hides and skin from livestock supplied tanneries that produce high-quality leather goods. Together, these sectors created jobs, strengthened exports, and built an economy driven by hard work and trade. Today, modern cocoa processing plants, leather hubs, and textile initiatives are re-emerging across the country, supported by technology, infrastructure, and targeted investments. Nigeria remains among the world's top cocoa producers and now exports not only raw cocoa beans, but also value-added products such as cocoa butter, liquor and cake, expanding earnings, and deepening industrial capacity. These efforts are reconnecting agriculture with industry, creating jobs, boosting exports, and positioning the nation once again as a competitive force in the global agricultural economy. The discovery of oil in the late 1950s transformed Nigeria's economy but diverted attention and investments away from agriculture. The oil boom of the 1970s brought revenue growth, but weakened the industrial base that agriculture once supported. As oil exports expanded, agricultural exports declined, and cheap food imports displaced local production. Farmers faced rising input costs, poor access to finance, and limited storage and processing facilities, while manufacturers struggled with inadequate infrastructure, unreliable power supply, and shrinking markets. In response, the federal government introduced deliberate policies to rebalance the relationship between agriculture and industry. Early industrialization efforts focused on import substitution and establishing processing plants for agricultural commodities protected by high tariffs. Over time, new initiatives promoted agribusinesses and strengthened value chains to reduce import dependency and expand local processing. These policy efforts laid the groundwork for a series of targeted programs designed to transform agriculture into a more productive and commercially viable sector. The Agricultural Transformation Agenda of the federal government of Nigeria was launched in 2013 with the objective of attracting private sector investment in agriculture, reducing post-harvest losses, adding value to local agricultural produce, developing rural infrastructure, and enhancing access of farmers and other value chain actors to financial services and markets. Key impacts of this program included higher incomes for producers and entrepreneurs and an additional 20 million metric tons of key food commodities added to domestic supply each year. In 2015, the federal government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, established the Anchor Borrowers Program. Its primary objectives were to enhance livelihoods of smallholder farmers, increase production of key commodities, to support food security, strengthen value chains, reduce import dependency, and boost financial inclusion. The program was designed to link smallholder farmers to large buyers of processors, providing a guaranteed market for their crops. Available data indicates that over 4 million farmers have benefited from the Anchor Borrowers Program across 21 agricultural commodities. The program has contributed significantly to Nigeria's rice production, with output reportedly increasing from 5 million metric tons to approximately 8 million metric tons within 6 years. This growth has led to a notable reduction in rice importation, which dropped by nearly 50%. The program's impact is also evident in the expansion of agro-processing infrastructure, with the number of mega rice mills in the country growing to about 50 within that same period of time. The success achieved demonstrates the transformative potential of targeted agricultural interventions. We are now scaling up industrial transformation across the agricultural value chains through the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone, SAPZ, a project designed by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security and supported by the African Development Bank, AFDB, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and the Islamic Development Bank. The SAPZ is part of a strategic initiative in Nigeria targeted at promoting agriculture industrialization. The concept involves creating designated zones where agribusinesses can operate efficiently, benefiting from infrastructure, services, and policy support. The SAPZ initiative aims to boost household incomes, create jobs in rural agricultural communities, particularly for the youth and women, and enhance food and nutrition security in Nigeria. It involves developing essential infrastructure, including roads, power supply, water, and processing facilities to address challenges posed by inadequate infrastructure in rural areas. The program adopts a cluster approach, bringing together various agricultural value chain actors in one location. This includes farmers, processors, input suppliers, and other stakeholders, creating synergy and fostering collaboration. Overall, the Infrastructure Development Program, SAPZ, is expected to increase agricultural productivity and efficiency, enhance value addition and agro-processing, create employment opportunities and stimulate economic growth, improve food security and nutrition, and attract investments and promote private sector participation. By addressing infrastructure gaps and promoting agro-industrial development, SAPZ can contribute significantly to Nigeria's agricultural transformation and economic growth. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Nigeria's agricultural sector is entering a new phase of transformation, guided by supportive policies, rising investments, and strategic partnerships under the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. The government's pursuit of food sovereignty, ensuring that Nigeria produces what it eats, processes what it produces, and trades from a position of strength, reflects a clear commitment to self-reliance and sustainable growth. This vision is redefining agriculture not only as a foundation of national prosperity, but also as Nigeria's contribution to global food security and economic reliance. In this regard, Nigeria is committed to leveraging the G20 platform to attract investment, deepen strategic partnerships, and accelerate technology transfer across the agricultural value chains. The country technology transfer across its agricultural competitiveness, the opportunities in stable crop processing, high-value commodities, and export-oriented agribusiness. Strong domestic and regional demand are driving growth in cassava, rice, tomato, maize, yam, and cowpea processing, while maize remains a critical feedstock for Nigeria's expanding livestock and poultry industries. There is also significant potential in oil palm, soybean, and groundnut value chains that support year-round production and mechanized farming systems. In addition, specialty export crops such as hibiscus, sesame, cashew, and shea butter command strong international markets, with shea already a major export for Nigeria's cosmetics, food, and pharmaceutical sectors. With a large consumer base and a growing integration into global markets, these opportunities reaffirm Nigeria's commitment to building a globally competitive agro-industrial economy open to partnerships and investment. We therefore look forward to collaborating with you to achieve these goals and build more sustainable food systems. Thank you very much for listening.
I would like to thank Honourable Minister Chiari for his welcome remarks, insightful welcome remarks. We're continuing the opening session, and I will now give the floor to State Minister, Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Honourable Senator John Owen Eno. Sir, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Your Excellencies, the Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Chiari, ambassadors, distinguished delegates, partners, the press, ladies and gentlemen. Let me follow, my colleague, to welcome you to Abuja and to say that you have been in Abuja today. It's not just that Abuja is Nigeria's federal capital, but I think for me, this meeting is a symbolic crossroad where I think that agriculture meets industry, where national policy meets the continent's vision, and where domestic action meets global partnership. And, listening to the Minister of Agri, you're going to find the same themes, the theme between agriculture and industry. So today's theme, linking Nigeria's agro-industrial policy with Africa's regional transformation and the FCFTA priorities. It's a real and a very contextual one. For me, it's a statement of urgency because in Africa, agriculture is not just an economic sector, it is livelihoods, it is dignity, it is indeed survival. And industry is not just factories. Industry is value, is jobs, and it speaks to the sovereignty of our nations. The future of our continent lies in the deliberate fusion between agriculture and industry. And you don't need to go too far, to appreciate this. 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land is in Africa. The youngest population is in this continent. We have a continental market of 1.4 billion people under the AFCFTA. In spite of this, we contribute less than 3% to global trade and only 1.5% to global manufacturing output. Again, this is related to the fact that for decades, like the Minister of Agriculture said, Africa exported cocoa, but imported chocolate. Africa grew cotton, but imported garments. We mined minerals, but imported machines. We grew raw materials, but outsourced prosperity. I mean, that has been our story, basically. And to reverse this, agro-industrialization is not just an option. It's an imperative. It's the bridge between subsistence and structural transformation. Under our country's President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his renewed hope agenda, Nigeria has placed agriculture and industry at the center of its economic renewal. And our strategy rests on about 4 pillars. 1, enhancing productivity at the farm level, that has been extensively spoken to. 2, building the agro-industrial processing zones, the SAPZs. I mean, I can report that in addition to what the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security had mentioned earlier on, we've had groundbreaking, events, to, signal the start of this very important program, upon which we hope to achieve a number of things. 1, to be able to turn cassava into starch, into ethanol, sweeteners, and industrial flour. Rice into branded market-ready retail products, tomatoes into paste and concentrates. And a number of these are already happening under the federal government and the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investments, policy on what we call the backward integration program. Turning cotton into yarn, textiles, and garments, and cocoa, palm oil, livestock, dairy, and horticultural produce into export-grade products. The third pillar is actually local content industrial linkages. Through the Nigerian First and Made in Nigerian policy, government procurement will now prioritize local inputs. I mean, the proposed pro-Nigerian Secretariat will institutionalize compliance, standards, and value chain partnerships. There's also the emphasis by the administration on infrastructure, on financing and MSME inclusion. So linking all of these, Nigeria's agro-industrial policy is not just inward looking, it is designed for Africa. And there are quite a number of matters that are being confronted on that. The AFCFTA is the largest free trade area in the world by membership, covering 55 countries, 1.4 billion people, and $3.4 trillion GDP. But I think, participants, guests, ladies and gentlemen, as you'll all agree with me, treaties don't trade. It is people, it is companies that do. So to make AFCFTA to be real, borders must become bridges and not barriers. Nigerian tomatoes that is processed in Kano should reach Accra, Niamey, Abidjan without harassment, without duplication of duties or standards uncertainty. African fertilizer made in Onne should feed farms in Niger and Mali. A Nigerian fashion entrepreneur should sell across 15 markets digitally without facing 15 standards agencies. And all of this is where the G20 should not just be an observer, but should be a partner in the realization of all of this. And we call for 3 forms of partnership. 1, finance that fits Africa's future. This finance to support agro-industrial corridors with blended finance, expand guarantees for cross-border infrastructure and logistics, capitalize Africa's development finance institutions. 2, technology and industrial know-how, mechanization partnerships, tractors, irrigation tech, agri drones, joint ventures that retain intellectual property and build local capacity. The 3rd is trade governance that enables and not restricts. WTO reform to preserve special and differential treatment for developing nations is key. Mutual recognition of African standards under AFCFTA. Incentive value addition at source, not raw exports. Nigeria is not speaking from theory. We're doing the work. We are connecting farms to factories. We are producing, not just planning. We are aligning domestic policy with continental ambition. Our vision is clear, and that vision is to write this narrative and reposition agriculture not as the end of the value chain, but as the beginning of industrial might. After all, the world's greatest economies and industrialized nations have attained their status because of their uncanny ability to transform and to transit from the agriculture basic to industrialization. By aligning Nigeria's forthcoming national Nigeria industrial policy, which we've just validated, with continental frameworks, most notably the African Continental Free Trade Area, we seek to transform agriculture into a catalyst for industrialization, and as has been done elsewhere, into regional trade integration and sustainable development. This is how we move from subsistence to scale, from commodities to competitiveness, from isolation to interconnected prosperity. We believe that the G20 offers an indispensable platform to forge this transformation with global partners. It is here that ambition can be merged with investment, technology with opportunity, and policy with purpose. Nigeria stands ready. Nigeria stands committed to deepening government to government and public-private partnerships. Therefore, I extend a sincere invitation to development partners, to investors, and to G20 member states. Treat Africa not as a venue of vulnerability, but as a partner in value creation. Work with us to expand sustainable agricultural value chains, to finance agro-industrial infrastructure, to build resilient trade corridors, transport networks and logistics systems, and support innovation, skills development, and digital transformation in agriculture. Together, we can create a future where African farms feed African factories. African factories supply African markets, and Africa strengthens the global economy, not at the margins, but as its core. Excellencies, let it be said that here today in Abuja, we did not gather to admire problems, but as architects for those solutions. I thank everyone.
Thank you indeed, Minister of State, Senator Eno, for your very valuable and insightful remarks. We will continue the opening session, and I will now proceed to deliver an opening statement. So if you allow me, again, Honourable Minister Chiari, Honourable Senator, State Minister Eno, the esteemed excellencies, G20 ambassadors, G20 invited countries, including our charge of the South African High Commission to Nigeria, Professor Moroe, sitting on my left, who joined us today. Esteemed knowledge partners and international organizations. I would like to mention specifically the UNDP and the UNIDO, who are our key partners in this initiative today. Esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen. For us, it is especially an honor to co-host here, also with my colleague, Ambassador Haman, from the Nigerian Sherpa team, G20 Sherpa team. It is especially an honor and a privilege to host this event in Nigeria today. I think we need to reflect on the words of our president, President Cyril Ramaphosa, when he said at the very start of our G20 presidency that our presidency this year will be an African one. So we are doing outreaches. We have done outreaches, an outreach in Egypt. This is the second one we are doing in Nigeria, and we plan one more for Addis in Ethiopia. Thank you. It is actually historical in the sense that a G20 presidency is hosting G20 events outside of the host country. And for us, that is just delivering on what our president has promised the continent. It is also important to reflect on the fact that in our theme, in our priorities, and in our high-level deliverables, we speak to the issues that are dear to the continent: debt sustainability, food security, and in this case, also those issues are covered today in our meeting that would focus on agriculture and industrialization. So I think it is also important to reflect just a little bit on what we have done in our presidency so far this year. We've held more than 120 meetings on our calendar of events. We are now in the last stages of the ministerial sessions that we are hosting in South Africa. As you can imagine, we remain extremely ambitious and we remain optimistic for a good summit, G20 summit event, 22 and 23 in November. Each one of you sitting here, either yourself or your countries, have made significant contributions and have supported our events and our presidency this year. For that, we cannot thank you enough. Nothing is possible without your support, whether you are a G20 member or whether you are an invited country, international organization, or just a knowledge partner. All of those elements of the G20 ecosystem supported us this year, and for that we remain extremely thankful. And if you can take those messages, this message home to your capitals, we would really appreciate it. Of course, in the case of Nigeria, we are fortunate to have the principals with us in this room, and we again express our appreciation for that support. So moving forward, of course, we will host the fourth Sherpa meeting in South Africa from 16 to about 19 or 20th of November. And we are still hopeful that we will, in that period, conclude the Leaders' Declaration, which we have already started negotiating. Us to the social summit in South Africa. So we are, of course, following Brazil's example to host a social summit. As you know, South Africa's approach to the G20 is also one of the entire country being involved in it. It is a whole of country initiative and project, and it's very much similar to how we achieved our democracy in 1994, a whole of society approach. So we will have a social summit, and that will take us then to the Leaders Summit on the 22nd and the 23rd of November in Johannesburg. So let me just then briefly reflect also on this meeting. As you know, agriculture and industry have long been recognized as foundational pillars of sustainable growth. Yet, despite decades of commitment, Africa's structural transformation continues to face significant headwinds. It remains underfunded, underprioritized, and not yet fully integrated into global cooperation frameworks. Across the continent, many economies contend with persistent challenges. Fragmented markets would be one of them, also infrastructure and energy gaps, low agricultural productivity, limited technological capacity, and constrained access to long-term financing. These barriers have slowed industrial progress, limited value addition, and weakened food systems and resilience, and therefore also weakened food security on our continent. However, this moment offers us a renewed opportunity. Africa's transformation is not only vital for the continent, it is global imperative. It contributes directly to climate action, strengthens supply chain resilience, reduces dependency, and promotes shared prosperity. Agriculture and industrial transformation are deeply interconnected. Together, they enable stronger food systems, more robust local productions, and expanded opportunities for value-added trade. They are essential to building inclusive economies and empowering our communities. This meeting is therefore framed by a powerful message. Africa's development is a global public good. As such, it deserves our collective attention, investment, and resolve. Through the G20 platform, we can mobilize the partnerships and resources that are needed to support Africa's ambitions, grounded in mutual respect, shared interest, and a long-term commitment. I would therefore like to conclude to say, let us approach this dialogue today with openness, with humanity, with humility, and with a spirit of partnership. Together, we can help shape a future where Africa's agriculture and industrial sectors thrive, not in isolation, but as integral parts of a resilient and inclusive global economy. So as I conclude, let me also say that our intention as presidency today is that we will take whatever we learn in this process and present the outcomes of this session, of this event in Nigeria to our Sherpa. He will present it to the G20 collective during the Sherpa meeting in Johannesburg. And we hope that some of the inputs today, some of the guidance we will receive. This is not a technical session. This is an interaction from the presidency, from Nigeria as an invited country to the presidency, an interaction with the G20 and especially with our African countries and partners. So we are collectively building an input that we will take to the summit in South Africa. So on that note, again, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, our Nigerian counterparts, everyone in this room today, let me thank you for your presence. I know it is a hectic time of the year. We are all extremely busy, but we hope that you will be able to join us for the entire day, for all the events and all the interactions we plan in the sessions. And I will now, if you allow me, conclude and thank you and ask my colleague, my co-host, Ambassador Abukar Rahman, to please also say a few words as we conclude the opening session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. the Honorable Minister of Agri, the Honorable Minister of Industries, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is delighted to collaborate with the South Africa G20 presidency and the knowledge partners and supporters to co-host this G20 Africa outreach meeting. This commitment aligns with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, which aims to strengthen partnership that accelerates the implementation of sustainable development goals. This meeting presents a unique opportunity to cut a collective path forward for the African continent with the G20 and beyond. As we deliberate today, we must acknowledge that the G20 should not merely be a gathering of the world's largest economies. Instead, it should function as a platform that affirms that genuine progress hinges on the effective engagement of the global community with Africa's priorities. Our presence here signifies Africa's growing influence on the world stage and our shared responsibility to ensure that the African voice is not only heard, but also acted upon. We acknowledge the numerous challenges Africa faces, including climate change, economic transformation, infrastructure deficit, youth unemployment, health crisis, and security concerns. However, these challenges also present immense opportunities for innovation, partnership, and sustainable development through the theme of the South Africa G20 presidency: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. We have a clear focus on ensuring that Africa's development needs are not only acknowledged, but fully addressed in global discussions and decisions. As one of the largest economies in Africa, Nigeria is committed to fostering dialogue, collaboration, sustainable development initiatives across all sectors. We understand that no single nation, regardless of its power, can address its challenges alone. It is through the spirit of partnership that we can drive forward the solutions necessary to uplift our continents. This meeting presents an invaluable opportunity for Africa and our G20 partners to engage in meaningful discussions and share perspectives that aligns with Africa's aspiration for prosperity, peace, and progress. I conclude by reaffirming Nigeria's commitment to ensuring that Africa's voice is at the forefront of global discussions and decision-making. Together, we can pave the way for an inclusive and sustainable future for our continent, where the benefits of growth and development are shared equitably among all. I thank you, Excellencies.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Haman. We have also, of course, the focus today is on our continent, and the Dean of the Africa Group will also have an opportunity to speak now, but he's represented by the honorable colleague from esteemed Excellency from Togo, if I'm correct. Please, sir, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and High Commissioners, distinguished guests, on behalf of His Excellency Salahuddin Abbas Ibrahima, High Commissioner of Cameroon to Nigeria, and Dean of the African Group in Abuja, I would like to thank the Presidency for inviting the Africa Group to this meeting on agriculture and industrialization. The African Group welcomes the opportunity to have a say in the G20, which is very important. We wish South Africa well in the hosting of G20 summit in Johannesburg. We wish all the very success to this coming summit in Johannesburg. I thank you all for attending this meeting. And on behalf of Saladin, I wish all the very success to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Excellency, representative from the Dean of the African Group in Nigeria. Colleagues, we're going to conclude this session now. We are done with the opening session, and we will excuse the media, and we will now have, we would like to invite you to a family photo. So our honorable ministers, if you could kindly please join us for the photo session outside, and heads of delegation can also join us for this photo. Thank you so much.